I'm recording tomorrow I have a podcast about podcasts. I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. I won't know. I don't script it. I don't know what I'm going to say until like 5 minutes before. Don't do that. I'm not telling people to do that. I've been doing this a long time. But just the understanding that you want to be remembered, that however you're remembered, some people make me laugh.
Welcome to the Master the Media podcast. I'm your host, Amy Gorin, and I have a very special treat for you guys today. I'm here with my podcast producer, Kevin Palmieri.
What's happening, my friend?
So great to have you here.
I'm excited slash, I don't know, maybe nervous. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see
You
how it
nervous?
goes.
I don't believe it. So we're gonna just talk about why, all things podcasts. If you want to have a podcast, how you start, how to be a guest on other people's podcasts, why all of that's important. And I learned, I'll just say everything I know about podcasting from Kevin. He has produced the Master of the Media podcast from day one. So let's learn a little bit about you, Kevin. Can you tell us how you got started in this whole business?
Sure. Yeah. I did not set out to be a podcaster or a podcast producer or a speaker or a coach or any of that. I think when I was young, I just jumped from job to job to job. And eventually I found myself making really good money, but in a very bad place mentally. So one day I sat on the edge of a bed and contemplated taking my life. And that was a red flag, obviously, right? Something has to change here.
Yeah.
And at that point, I had already started a podcast called the Hyperconscious Podcast. It was all about changing the way you think, changing the way you act, change the way you live. That was my motto. And I just loved it. I loved podcasting. I fell in love with it. And the next logical step for me was, okay, let me leave my job and try this podcasting thing and see what happens. And that was in 2018. And I was a very broke entrepreneur from like 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. I mean, it was rough for sure. But I always had the belief that if I could find a way to do this for a living, I would be the most fulfilled person ever of all time. And then it got to the point where I think we were like 500 episodes in, people started asking me for help. Hey,
Wait. I think backtrack. So you
please.
500 episodes. You went from like a 0 to 500.
Yeah, so I started in 2017, and then in 2018 we just kind of like I partnered with my best friend at the time, and we just started hammering episodes. So I think by like 2020 we were already like 500 episodes in.
Wow.
And
That's amazing.
it's weird to look back, right? And then people start asking me for help. Like, hey, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? It's like, I don't really think so. I don't know why you're asking me. In retrospect, it makes sense
Yeah.
because I had so many episodes. So then we built out this production side as well. So yeah, it's been a weird journey. I did not expect to be here. I didn't expect to have the privilege of working with amazing people like you, but here we are in 2026. I think we have like 80 podcasting clients we work with every month at this point.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, fun fact, I think I referred more people to Kevin than I had episodes for a while because I was like, I got in my own head about launching my podcast. I was like, I'm going to pay you to produce my podcast. And I had that like first month's retainer in the bank for like, what, like
Yeah.
a year before we actually launched.
It was weird. Yeah, I remember I said to my business partner, I said, Amy just keeps like sending me clients. She hasn't even started yet. Like she doesn't even have a podcast yet, and she's just sending me amazing people. So I'm super grateful. I appreciate it.
Well, I mean, I tell everyone about you because I'm like, all of, and this is like a little bit of a tangent, but I mean, it's related because a lot of our Master of the Media students, we're talking about podcasts, the importance of it.
Hmm.
We all get in our head. And so that's the number one thing I see with them is like, oh, I want to do this, but I
Yeah.
don't know how to edit videos. I don't know if I have time for the social media. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
Kevin's your guy.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. It's hard. The hard thing about, and again, this is not me selling you whether you're watching or listening to this, but this is something I see very commonly. At this point, I've done like 550 free calls with podcasters, right?
Wow.
I do breakthrough sessions. I don't sell anything. I want to learn and I want to add value where I can. The most common thing I see is somebody will say, hey, how much does it cost to work with you? And I'll say, for what you're looking for, it's X amount. And they say, all right, I have to first find out if I can make that with the podcast before I start working with you. And it's this weird thing where if you started a coffee shop, you would have to invest in the roasters and in the employees and in electricity and Wi-Fi and all that long before you ever made a dollar. So I think that's one of the hardest parts about podcasting is if you are stuck at a place where you can't afford the time to do this stuff, you're going to have to pay somebody. And there is no guarantee you make the money back quickly. And we can get into the ways in direct versus indirect. I'm sure we will.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that the word quickly is like, it's kind of just a concept, I think, because you can't actually track it, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I always tell people, I'm like, every podcast episode I am a guest on, I can say with certainty I get at least one new master of the media client because somebody, I'm introduced to somebody's new audience. One of our physician advisor, Simran, she heard me on somebody's podcast, and that's how she came into our world. And so that's, I think, that's the biggest value that I can pinpoint when I'm telling people, like, just start a podcast, like you have something to say. I mean, and this is literally like what you told me also was just, get out there. So let's talk about all the things. What's the first thing people should know about all of this?
Oh man. It's way easier than you think logistically to start. Psychologically, maybe not because we do get in our heads. Yeah. But like if you have a Zoom account, you're kind of off to the races.
Yeah.
You don't honestly, you don't even need a Zoom account. You can literally record into your phone and or your laptop in the voice recorder app. It's just the barrier to entry is just extremely low at this point. That's part one. Part two, you just spoke to this very well. Almost every result you get will be indirect from the podcast. It's very hard to track, right? You could say, okay, well, have you made any money from your podcast? Not from advertisements, not from sponsorships, not interested, but we've made over $1 million in the business. Would that have happened if we didn't have the podcast? No. Is it direct or is it indirect? That's up to you. That's up to you to decide. So
but it is organic.
Yes. It's all organic. And if you wanted to sit down and track it, which we have, you kind of can. So somebody follows us on social media. I send a message. Hey, Amy, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate you. You're wonderful. Oh my goodness. Kevin messaged me. Then they join a Facebook group. Then they come to a free event. Then blah, blah, blah. So they work their way down the business model. So those are two of the bigger ones. I would say the third one, and this is becoming more and more and more relevant with AI, your personality and your prep work matter a ton, way more than they ever have, because when the barrier to entry is low, everybody can get in, right? So there's two things that can set you apart. One, your personality, and two, the amount of prep work you do before a guest spot and or an interview spot. That is, I've been on a lot of shows. You want to make sure that you're memorable because collaboration comes from being remembered. You can't collaborate with somebody you don't remember. So you have to find a way to be memorable on either side of the microphone. And I'm telling you, if you do that, you have a higher probability of being successful, whatever that means to you.
I love that. And so, I mean, when you're saying, what I'm getting is just like be yourself, which I think a lot of people are afraid to do. And yep. For me, I'm like, literally, I have talked about poop on my podcast. Like, and I'm just like, my husband's always like, Amy, you have to have a filter. And I'm like, I don't know. It served me really well not to.
Yeah. Well, what's worse, turning somebody off when they first listen to the podcast, or somebody listening to the podcast, then getting to know you behind the scenes and then realizing you're a completely different person? Right? That's that. I don't want anybody, you and I have talked behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It's the same as this. This is the same exact version of both of us.
Except I'm wearing mascara.
Well, that's fair. I'm not. I left mine off today. I didn't have time. But I think that's an important thing is now most of us as podcasters, the way we're going to win is by getting people to move through the business, and eventually they're going to talk to us. And if you're different than the person they hear on the top of the business model on the podcast, you're going to turn people off. People want real. They want organic. They want authentic now more than ever.
Yeah. And I think that's something that, I mean, and we have so much to talk about, and I'm just like trying, like in my head, like, what do we talk about next? But I know for me, like with my students, like I talk about, my failures, and I think that resonates the most with them. With like, I tried, to get, 4 clients, I pitched 1,000 people, and they're like, and I'm talking about brands in this case, but I think just that real thing, and to anyone listening now, it's like, okay, like Amy's a real person who fails, Kevin's a real person who fails,
For sure.
but we also succeed, and that's what we're going to talk about how to do today.
Well, the thing is, so we have this fail forward mentality. The problem that we have made is we have done a lot of our failing forward publicly. Where in my mind, this is a practice. This isn't the Super Bowl. This is a practice. It took me a long time to realize that failures in public, people remember that. So yes, I always want us to fail, and I want us to fail forward, and I want us to test new things and test new cameras and angles and all that stuff. But that goes back into the prep work. You iron all that out before things go live, because it's hard. I don't want people to be too scarce, but you also can't be too abundant. If somebody comes across your podcast and it's the first episode and you're in shambles because you're testing something out, you may lose them forever. You don't get a second opportunity to see them again for the first time. So the fail forward thing is huge. My advice to everybody, and prior Kevin, is to do it behind the scenes, because people remember it and they don't know that you're going to do this for 10 years. So they're going to leave. They're going to say, oh, this person doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And I'm also going to say, because I'm like a very tech kind of like, I just tech like freaks me out, and it's funny because my husband's a software engineer, so go figure. But I don't like to bug him too much. And so my biggest mental obstacle, like I think the reason it took me a year to get this podcast off the ground, was the tech. And I was like, I think when in one of our first meetings, Kevin, I was like, okay, just give me a list of what to buy.
Yeah.
Like I'll do whatever you tell me to.
Yeah.
And so do I have the perfect camera? Like, no, you and I are working on that behind the scenes, but like, is this the best microphone? I don't know. You tell me, but I have it and we're doing the thing. So
you would be mind blown how many clients literally say, just send me a list of what I need.
Yeah.
And this is the other thing too. And I don't know. It took me a long time to realize this. My job as a coach is essentially to get you to do the thing, not to get you to do the thing perfectly.
Yes.
I have mics I could send. I have a $500 mic I could send you right now. Cool. It'll make it sound better. But it's not worth it. It's the fine line of sustainability and starting. You have to start. It has to be sustainable. And then we can level up as we go. That's the hard part. That's the hard part. One of my jobs is to retain clients, not because of the revenue, but most people, when they leave us, they stop the podcast. And if you stop the podcast, you're not going to reap the rewards that you've been putting in. So like my job is to retain clients so they can actually get success. If I send you a list of 500 things and it's $25,000, a lot of people are going to say, nah, this isn't it. So that's a big piece of it too. Like you have to start where you are. You don't have to get the nicest mic and the nicest cameras. Like, don't worry about that stuff in the beginning. Level up to that.
I like that. And okay, so let's talk about like why. So in what I've kind of gleaned, because, obviously I teach people how to be on the media, and there's all forms of media. There's podcasting, there's online, media articles, there's TV. But it feels like podcasting is like this kind of like solo man standing off to the side, where like it's still like maybe what all of those other types of media were like 25 years ago, where there's this organic following and people are really excited to listen and people actually binge watch your episodes. So can you just talk about like why why is podcasting like this crazy awesome thing that like really everyone should be doing?
Number one, your audience listens to you for a long period of time. So if you look at your insights on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, if you hook somebody for like 20 seconds, you're crushing it. You're doing some world-class stuff. If you have a 30-minute podcast episode and the average consumption of that is 80%, you have a good amount of people's attention. And that is now what people are measuring. We are in the attention economy. One of the best ways to get people's attention is to do long-form audio. Right? That's one for sure. Second thing is you can become a thought leader in your space by just adding value and building a following doing that. I'm not saying social media is going away. I'm not saying it's not valuable, but it's really hard to build a real deep reputation on 20-second segments. It doesn't work the same. That's a piece of it. Third piece, you always get a call to action on every single episode you do. So you add value, you add value, you add value, and you say, hey, if this was valuable and you want more value, here's where you can go. Right. So those are three really big ones. You get access to people that you would not normally get access to. Because if people value podcasts, they value coming on podcasts, you're going to get access to people. And then maybe the fifth and final one I would say is it's easier now than it's ever been to get on podcasts. There's Podmatch, there's Matchmaker, there's a lot of places that you literally sign up, you pay a fee, and you can just message as many people as you want to get on podcasts. One of the things that a lot of people are missing out on is when I am talking one-on-one with a host, that host is a potential collaborator.
And you
As
told me
much
this
as,
in our last
yeah,
coaching call, and I think this was even like a kind of aha moment to me. So let's talk about this.
most people hear one of the best ways to grow your podcast is to go on other podcasts. Yes, and as somebody who's been on 1,100 other shows, it did not grow our podcast like I thought it would. I mean, I've been on a lot of podcasts, right? It didn't work like I thought it was going to work. Now, maybe my calls to action aren't good or the niche is too specific. There's a lot of reasons it could be. But what it has done is it has allowed me to talk one-on-one with 1,100 people. And we've gotten speeches from that. We've gotten group coaching members. We've gotten one-on-one clients. We've gotten connections, referrals, collaborations. So what a lot of people do is they go on a podcast as a guest and they say, okay, I have to get their audience to me. No, add value, add value. I would focus on building a relationship with the host more than anything because it's one person directly in front of you. You don't know how many listens the podcast gets. You don't know how many listeners they have. It could be brand new, but there's one person in front of you who you know, who you can build a relationship with. So that's a thing that I see as a very big opportunity for people that not enough people are leveraging yet, right?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so let's talk about that a little bit more. So, like obviously you're not going to sell them during your podcast interview. So what do you actually do, to get them interested?
Yeah. So obviously I'm in a very unique space where I'm a podcast producer and coach talking to podcasters. So it's a little bit easier for me. I will put that out there. But this has worked with business coaches, fitness coaches, publishers. Like this works with a lot of people. Go on the episode. Do your prep. I should know as much about you as the host as you know as me, about me as the guest. Like that is my thing. I need to know this person. So do the prep. Do the episode, add as much value as you can, be early, all of that stuff. Use the host's name, like make sure you reference them. You're trying to build a relationship. When you get off, send a follow-up email. Depending on what it is you provide or what you're trying to create, it's going to change. But mine was always, Amy, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. As a token of my appreciation, I'd love to offer you a free 30-minute podcast breakthrough session. It's not a sales call. If you're not interested, no stress. I just love talking to podcasters. I would send that out to every aligned show. And then we would get on a podcast breakthrough session and I would try to add value and kind of take it from there. So it depends on what you're offering. It depends on what you're providing, but some level of valuable follow-up is necessary. And you have to paint yourself abundantly clearly as what you're the expert in. Because there's nothing worse than getting off of an episode and somebody saying, hey, you want to like meet up and collaborate. It's like, I don't know what that means. What are you saying? Like, what do you do? I need to know what you do. So you have to make it abundantly clear what you're the expert in, and then just treat it like anything else. If they hop on a call, see where it goes.
So yeah, so don't be like the person who interviewed me and thought for the whole 30-minute interview that I teach social media.
No, don't do that. You gotta do your research. You gotta
Yeah.
do your research.
So Kevin, should you and I get on a call and you'll, try and get me to be your client?
No, I don't do that. I don't do sales calls. I do value calls. But yes, for sure.
And fun fact, I actually found out about Kevin through my friend Louise, and she launched this podcast and it became like crazy successful. And I was just like, how'd you do it? She's like, well, there's this guy, Kevin.
Well, most of that, this is where I always have to push back. Like most of that is her. Louise is a really good example of when we first started working together, talking about working together. I said, when do you want your episodes to go live? And she said, 5 a.m. I said, why 5 a.m.? She said, because my ideal audience is up and running at 5 a.m. And I said, I will trust you on that more than me. You know your demographic better. She's been on the top charts as a podcast since she launched, but so much of that is her understanding of her audience. That's another important thing is if you know your audience really well, the demographic, the psychographic, if you understand your audience, this is a really good thing to have because you're sending signals out to your audience, right? So knowing your audience is massive when it comes to building the podcast for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, and guys, if you're like, who is Louise? Louise Valentine. Check out her podcast. Kevin, what's the name of it?
It's changed many times. It's like maximizing, it's maximizing health or something. Just search Louise Valentine maximizing. It'll come up.
So Louise, you get a shout out. But yeah, I mean, I think it's, I can't agree with that more because it's like, and I think that's another thing you can get in your head about, like, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about? And I know you're saying prepare. I'm going to be honest, I don't prepare super in advance. Sometimes I am like, okay, 5 minutes before my episode, like, what am I going to talk about? But it's always something that maybe a Master of the Media student asked me about that during the week, or someone in our Facebook group asked me, and I'm like, oh, that's a really good, topic to talk about. And so it's always relevant. And I think that's, what comes across as like one of the biggest, things that we've talked about being important.
Well, your audience though, right? Like that's the difference is the reason I always tell people don't do what I do. I'm recording tomorrow I have a podcast about podcasts. I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. I won't know. I don't script it. I don't know what I'm going to say until like 5 minutes before. Don't do that. I'm not telling people to do that. I've been doing this a long time, but just the understanding that you want to be remembered, that however you're remembered, some people make me laugh. Some people ask me questions that nobody has ever asked me before. Whatever being memorable means to you, that is one of the key things. If we were to have a checklist when you get off of an episode, whether a host or a guest, one of the check things should be, will this person remember me? That. And you'd be surprised. So we did an interview. Do you know who Evan Carmichael is? I think I've showed you his stuff.
I think so.
He's a big YouTuber, and he is one of the biggest channels in the personal development space. We interviewed him in like 2020, I think, 2021. And we were given 20 minutes. He was doing a book tour. He was doing a bunch of shows. He said, you got 20 minutes. Awesome. Cool. So we're 18 minutes in. As a gracious host, I say, hey, where can people find you? I want to make sure you get to your next call on time. He said, no, keep going. You guys are great. So we got a 20-minute interview that went to an hour. A couple of months later, he messages us and says, hey, I'd love for you to come up to Toronto and interview me in person. Cool. Let's do that. Then he comes and speaks at one of our events. Then we go back up to Toronto. Then I keynote one of his $50,000 a year masterminds. And I got a bunch of clients from that. That all came from being memorable on a free podcast episode. That's the best example of what can happen if you do it correctly.
I love that. So how does one prepare to be memorable? I think we're going to get a lot of people kind of thinking, well, I'm still in my head about this. That still sounds too difficult. So how can we make it not difficult?
Oh, man. One of the things I get remembered for often is my backdrop. This one's not as crazy as the other one was.
But it's still cool. I was going to comment on it, but I was like, I'm sure it'll come up.
I appreciate it. That's one. Now, again, that's all reverse engineered. I'm a podcast producer. My studio better be nicer than yours. That's a piece.
I mean, it is. So,
well, for now,
have a studio.
We're leveling up. We're leveling up. I would say there's a couple different ones. One, just be insanely curious. People can sense when you really care about what you're asking. That I was never that. It was always my job to ask questions that had never been asked to give value to the audience that they wouldn't get somewhere else. So I would literally it was like a 3-to-1 ratio. For every hour interview, I'd spend 3 hours researching. That was always my ratio. And if that meant buying their book and reading it, I would do that. I just wanted to go places that other people weren't willing to go for the most part. Somebody asked me, I've had 2 people ask me this question. Hey, Kevin, I know you have a history of mental health in the past. Do you think you'll ever think about killing yourself again? What a great question. But you got to have courage to ask that question. Nobody wants to ask that. Nobody wants to ask that, Amy. But I'll remember those people forever, right? So that, some sort of like pattern break, knowing something about the guest or the host, if you're on the other end, that is super niche, that nobody really knows, like that. I think so much of it is just finding out information that is there, but it's kind of buried. And most people just don't dig that far. They'll look at your first 9 social media posts. I'm going back to the beginning.
I
That,
love that.
that, that. I think that's that. And then like just out of the box questions that always work. So, talk to us a little bit about your lowest point and what kept you going. Most people will do that and then they'll jump to another question. We have something we call pulling the string. So when somebody answers a great question and they go deep, keep pulling the string and see how deep you can go. And you might only get 5 of your 20 questions, but it doesn't matter. It's not about getting all 20 questions. It's about getting 5 really, really good ones. I think that. So all of the people that remembered us and told us it was about the prep, it was about really good questions, and it was about the professionalism. So I would say those: prep, questions, professionalism.
I think that's great advice. And I mean, it makes me kind of just think of like some of that is, the point in the string. I mean, I've not heard it said like that, but I think that's a sort of what, I learned in journalism school, of just kind of like keep on pushing, keep on probing, like not like get the person to break, but like, I mean, I've made people cry, and am I proud of that? I don't know if proud's the right word, but like it definitely, like the pushing, worked.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, most people, I don't know, most people have like 15 questions and they think I have to get all these questions answered. It's like, no, you have to get 5 really good questions answered. Or you ask one question that takes you somewhere that you didn't plan on going and you keep going. Being an active listener and an active participant in the conversation is so important because I used to do that a lot. I'd get in my head and I wouldn't even be with you. Like, okay, when Amy stops, like, what do I say next? That's a skill worth developing for all of us. This is just a conversation and there's just cameras on. So the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. But yeah, I think pull the string is a really good thing. I'm not saying make people cry, but
Yeah, don't do that like all the time.
yeah,
Like
not all
my
the time.
goal is not to make you cry. So
I've cried. I've cried on both ends as a host and a guest. So I'm always open to it, but I know not everybody is yet.
yeah, it's a little too early.
Right?
So let's see. I mean, so gosh, because I know I literally was in my head for a whole year, which is not something I don't normally spiral like that. But I think with this whole, I was just like, there's so many barriers. There's like, I have to figure out video. And I was, I was like, I need to get StreamYard. And I still don't have StreamYard. I still have, Zoom. I need to get a better camera, whatever. I need to worry about like if I'm wearing my glasses and there's a reflection from the ring light. And
Mm-mm.
maybe I don't worry about that. But like, so what I'm hearing is just like, do the thing and
Yeah.
you can tweak it later, right?
Yeah, you're not going to break it in the beginning. Like that it's the fine line of I'm not saying show up in a dark room on your bed like selfie mode. I'm not saying to do that, but if that's what you have to do to start, do it. We have to figure out what's sustainable. Whatever is sustainable for you is where you should start. I started with audio only in 2017. I didn't do video. I didn't
Yes.
do video till later.
So I mean, I think that's probably in the back of a lot of people's head is, do I need to do video?
Do you need to? No. Would it be beneficial to you? Yes. Even bad video, in my opinion, is better than no video. And the reasoning is so audio platforms like Apple and Spotify, they reward loyalty. Audio podcasts are not good necessarily for discovery. It's not the way the algorithm works. YouTube is trying to get people discovered through their algorithm because if you find someone you resonate with, YouTube's number one key performance indicator is watch time. So if I find someone I like and I binge their content and it gets a lot of watch time, they can run more ads to that. And, so the algorithms are a little bit different. YouTube has better analytics for sure. That we know. So it gives you benefits that the audio platform doesn't, but it also does create pains in the butts that audio doesn't because you kind of have to look good. Most people don't know how to video edit. Audio editing is easy enough. So I think it's worth it, but it's not worth it enough where you shouldn't start if you can't do video yet.
Okay. I think that's good to hear. And I mean, it's also in my mind, it's like, yes, it was an obstacle for me, but it also it saves me time because I am spending this, I think we're probably going to end up talking for like 45 minutes to an hour,
Mhm.
talking. And then I have probably at least 5 or 6 different pieces of content. I have the 2 social media clips that your team edits for me. I have the YouTube video. I have, all the audio. I'm going to write an email blast
Yep.
about the episode to my audience, et cetera, et cetera. And so you're just spending a little bit more time on that video to actually save you time, right?
Yeah. And here's the other thing. Even if you don't use the video right away, you still have it. I've had clients where they're like, I'm not ready for video. Record in video anyway. Because if and when you start a YouTube channel, do you want to start on episode number 78? Or do you want to go back and start from the very beginning? I like starting from the beginning. That's just the way I am. I don't know. I'm not saying you have to, but there's no reason you shouldn't have the content if you plan on potentially using it later. And to your point, you don't have to put it on YouTube if you want to use the video clips. You can just pull video clips and post them on social. You don't have to post the long form on YouTube if you don't want.
I love that. What about blog posts? Like, should you, because I know like SEO and search engine optimization is like, is it still exist? Should we be turning our transcripts into blog posts?
I am not like super savvy when it comes to web stuff, but yeah, your transcripts you can get from like for free from the platforms. You might as well throw it on your website as a blog. There's no downside to it. Throw some backlinks in there. I don't see why not. Again, to your point, if you can get 10 outputs from one input, so if I can do an episode and I can get 2 pieces of content and I can get a YouTube video and I can get a blog and I can get whatever and connection and blah, 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 collaboration post, the more the merrier from my perspective.
Okay. So that is sounding a little bit more doable. So to all my people listening who I think a lot of you guys are like me and you're in your head, can you break down for us like the actual, let's just say you're doing everything on your own. You're doing the recording, the editing, the, social media. What
Mhm.
does that time commitment actually look like?
Oh man, depends on how savvy you are. But like if you're doing an hour interview, you're going to spend at least an hour editing the audio, at least an hour editing the video. So now you're in for 3. It's probably going to take you an hour per social media clip. So let's say you're in it for 5. And then you got to do all the emailing back and forth with the guests. So it depends on where you're starting. Like some people, I say don't edit anything. Just add the intro and add the outro and put that bad Larry up. Don't worry about it. Some people are spending an hour recording and then 30 minutes on everything else using chat. I know other people that are spending like 8 hours per episode because
Wow.
they're control-ish freaks and it has to be a certain way. And I'm not saying anything is right or wrong, but that I think that's the problem is if your standards are far beyond your capabilities, you're gonna get stuck.
Yeah.
You're gonna get stuck. It's like if you're trying to make a $200 steak and you've never cooked steak before, like you're gonna be in the kitchen for a long ass time, long time. So it depends, and that's where the conversation is. If you're somebody who has like a really modern brand, your content has to be modern too, and you're gonna get stuck. You're gonna say, well, this is below my standard. This is below my standard. I understand that's why a lot of people get stuck.
Yeah. And I'm gonna give Kevin a shout out because I mean, if you're telling me to produce all my stuff takes like 5 to 8 hours, like,
It
I
can.
no, I'm just saying I pay Kevin and his team. I think it's a very reasonable rate and they do all of that for me. So
I appreciate it. Well, you don't really know until somebody asked me a question the other day, and they're like, why did this take so long? And I said, it's for the type of clips we're making for you. It's an hour per minute. So if we make you a minute clip, it takes us the team an hour to do it. If we're cranking out 5 of those per episode, that's 5 hours. Like that's half a day for one person. It just takes time to produce high quality content, and the bar is always moving on that, right? It's not what it used to be. We have like the Diary of a CEO type intros where it's like a freaking movie trailer. So that's a piece that most people just can't do. It's beyond most people's capabilities. I can't do that. I'm a decent video editor, but I can't do what they're doing. So I'd have to pay somebody too.
Are
right?
you
We
telling
pay
me you
our
have a
team.
team, Kevin?
Yes, I'm telling you we have a team, and I'm telling you the team that does our clients' work does our work too, because it's beyond my skill set too.
And I think that's like, I mean, that goes back to, I think everything is realize what you, not just what you're capable of, but what you want to be capable of.
Yep.
So I'm a, like, I always, I try to learn almost everything in my business before I delegate it. But there's kind of like, there's two things I've never even wanted to learn. And one's Facebook ads, and two is like podcast stuff. I'm just like,
Yep. Understandable. You just have to make sure you find somebody you trust.
yeah.
That's the big thing. That's the big thing because I've worked with people who I'll have a call with them and I'll be like, all right, so you're never supposed to ask this question when you're doing a call with somebody, but how much are you paying your current team? They're like, oh, it's like $2,000 a month. It's like, all right, what are you getting? Like, oh, just audio editing. It's like you're paying $2,000 a month for audio. You're getting ripped off. You're getting gaffed. But you don't know because you don't know. That's
So,
awareness saves you for sure.
so okay, you opened up the door to let's talk about money a little bit.
Sure.
What, I don't want to say what should it cost, but what can it cost on the low end to have somebody produce your podcast for you?
Yeah. So, for example, one of our packages, our intro package, is $497, and that's audio editing, video editing, teaser clip from each episode, show notes, thumbnails. We post the episode, like we do all the stuff. So it's like $125 per episode. And then like we have clients that pay $10,000 a month because we're doing multiple episodes and split tests and title tests and Facebook groups and emails and blogs and blah, 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 like just a million different things. So the range is everywhere. If you're out there right now and you have somebody that's doing just audio and you're paying more than $1,000 a month, I would have a conversation with them just because it's a lot of money for just audio. And there are other things that you're going to have to do to grow it just besides doing it. So I would have a conversation with whoever it is you're working with just to see if there's something better you can do.
Yeah. And I will tell you all of you guys, like, so Master of the Media is on Kevin's intro plan. We pay 125 an episode,
Mhm.
and I am very happy with it.
I appreciate it. Likewise. And we're always trying to like, I'm realizing in real time, and you and I had this conversation recently, we're getting to a place where production isn't enough. So you want somebody that can produce and also add value in other ways. So I'm working on like a thing behind the scenes in Notion where we have a bunch of title examples and thumbnail examples of what's working from clients. So that's the other piece too. Be very careful about who you hire to do certain things because I know a lot of executive admins can do audio editing and stuff, but it doesn't mean they're the best at that.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't mean they can help you strategize necessarily. So just find someone that can help you with the strategy piece too.
Yeah, which I mean, I think I don't utilize enough, but like, you gave me that list of prompts last time we talked, and I'm like, okay, on days where I'm just like, what am I going to talk about? Oh, 5 things whatever want to do before you die. Cool. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. And then we measure, right? We test it, we measure it, we see, right? You message me and said, hey, how is it doing? It's like, all right, some of these aren't performing as well as I thought. Let's give it more time. Let's test out different thumbnails. So it's always this constant. By the time we get to like a set it and forget it mode, everything has already changed. So there's really no such thing as you have to be iterating constantly.
Yeah. But I will tell you, and one thing I haven't even shared with you, there's been an unexpected benefit of the prompts you gave me, which is the titles are really, they're kick-ass. Like, and so even like on Apple and Spotify, and I've gotten, people are listening. I've gotten emails from people like, oh gosh, like, those 5 things really were so on point. And I'm like, awesome.
Well, and you can use it for emails. You can use them as hooks on your social media. Like that's the other good thing is you can either grow into the podcast or take from the podcast. So if you find something works really well on social, do a long form episode on it. If you find something does really well on the podcast, do a short form piece of content on it. Like it's a really good sounding board for content throughout the business. That's a whole nother piece of it too, that I don't know if enough people are utilizing. Like it's proof of concept for other platforms
Yeah.
deliverables.
Which is why, I mean, I know like you gave the example of doing 3 hours of prep. Like, I'm just going to say I do not do that.
Yeah.
Most of the time, if I'm interviewing someone famous, like that's a whole different, I mean, not to say you're not famous,
I was
sorry.
going to say, what did you, no prep for me? How dare you?
But I know you.
Yeah.
But I think I just want to get to the point of like make the point that you don't have to get
Yeah.
super in your head about it. Um,
I'm not saying to do what I do. Most of what I did was based on crippling anxiety, very honestly. I was so nervous that things were going to go wrong that I just over prepped. So
which is, over prep is, I don't think anyone,
it's good. I'd rather be on that end,
yes.
right? I'd rather be on that. But yeah, I mean, to Amy's point, the barriers to entry are much lower than you think. And you can start where you are. You don't have to start beyond your current means. Like just get going and you'll iron out so many of these things. And you don't know what you don't know until you start. It's really hard you can chat GPT this until the sun goes down, but you got to get out there and do it and feel it and see what it feels like and then kind of go from there.
Yes. Let's go back to talking about money. So,
Sure. I love it.
let's talk about like what kinds of money can you make from podcasting? And I mean, share anything that you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah. Man. I mean, we've had $100,000 months. Like was
From
never
podcasting itself.
no from all things podcasting.
Yeah.
So I have never made $1 for like a listen. Like we've never done sponsorships. I'm not interested. We've turned them down. I don't want them. That's not the way we want to monetize. I want to have free content every single day for our audience. We will advertise our stuff. But yeah, I mean, we have clients that are doing 6 figures a year because they have coaching and or courses, platform type stuff like that. We have other clients that are doing, depending on the month, $5,000 to $10,000 a month just on YouTube. So they're doing $60,000 to $120,000 a year just from YouTube ads.
Okay, can you, and I think for the people who are like, what are you talking about? You're paying YouTube for ads, which I know is not what you mean. So
no, so when you get to a certain threshold in YouTube as a creator, they will run ads on your content and then they will give you a cut of it, essentially. So it's awesome, right? Now that opens a whole new can of worms because then you got to make sure the ads are the ones you want. But regardless, that is the difference with YouTube is it's easier to monetize through just pure content. But yeah, it depends on what your offer is. My suggestion for most people, and definitely your audience, is there has to be some sort of offering that's not merchandise. You're not relying purely on ads. You have a product or a service. You're a speaker. You're a coach. You have courses. You have meetups, masterminds, retreats, that type of stuff. That's where you're going to really make the money because the other stuff, you need a huge audience to make money off of. But if you have a small audience of people that know you, like you, and trust you, you can do really, really well with there. And that's the other upside of the podcast versus other places is you can build a small, tight-knit audience.
Yeah, and let's talk about that for a second because you told me, and this makes me feel a lot better because like we're still a baby podcast. We get like we've had weeks now where we have 200 listens, like almost, which I'm very proud of. But like I wouldn't have been proud of that if you hadn't told me to be proud of that. So let's talk about numbers.
Yeah, it's it changes all the time because there's new podcasts and podcasts go away. But I'm pretty sure it's like if you get 70 listens in the first week of an episode, you're in the top 25% of podcasts.
So 70, like that is very doable. You probably have 70 friends and family who will listen.
Yeah, it's very doable. But we see like the big shows and it's like, oh, they got $200 million for their podcast. I'm a loser. I'm never going to amount to anything. It's like, no. They're the 1% of the 1% of the 1% of the 1%, right? That's not us. We're not playing that game. The other thing that's really important to understand is right now, we're at a stage where on a month-to-month basis, more podcasts are dying than being made.
Really?
So by just surviving, you are increasing your likelihood of success, not exponentially. Frequency and consistency are not a strategy anymore. They're a requirement, right? We do a podcast episode every day. It's not going to make us any more successful. If anything, it's going to hurt us, honestly, because nobody wants to listen to a podcast about getting better every day. It's a big ask.
Maybe they do.
But one of the problems we've seen, and this is good to know about your audience, When our audience feels off or they feel down or they have like an off week, they leave. They don't listen. They'll come back when they feel good, but nobody wants to listen to a podcast talking about where you're messing up when you're messing up. Nobody wants that. Understandably. Understandably. So that goes back to the other piece of like really knowing your audience.
Yeah. And I mean, you gave me a great piece of advice recently. And because again, this was getting to in my head. I was like, oh, I don't have time this week to do like the perfect episode. And you're like, Amy, I'd much rather you just show up and talk for 5 minutes
Yeah.
and call it a day than like skip a week.
Yeah. You know your stuff. Like that's the thing is you know your stuff. You just talk. Like what did you learn? What you learned most likely is going to be valuable for other people. There's always people say that all the time. Like, how, don't you run out of things to talk about? No, go live life and you'll come back with a lesson or a story that you can somehow, or what are people asking you? Or what is one thing you wish more people in your space were talking about or whatever? Like, what are you going through? You can always talk about what you're going through and growing through with your audience. There's always an opportunity for an episode. Is it going to be a 30-minute banger? Maybe not. But some of the episodes I was like, this is going to be terrible, and recorded actually did the best. So just like you can spend 5 hours on that post, it's like, all right, I'm going to get this, or I'm going to do this, and like 3 people watch it. And then you just throw a picture of yourself like first thing in the morning and a bunch of people love it. You don't always know what people want.
You don't. So, gosh, we've talked about so much. So, what is the first or next thing that people should do if they want to start a podcast or be on podcast?
Man, start a podcast, reach out. Like I will literally help you totally for free. Just reach out to me and I will help you. I can send you the equipment, like whatever I can do to add value. If you need a guide, I got you. What was the second one?
If you want to be a guest. I think people think is, it is actually probably easier to be on someone else's podcast than to start your own.
It requires less commitment for sure.
Yeah.
Right. I would probably look into Podmatch. I'm not affiliated. I don't get paid a cent for saying it. Podmatch is a really good platform where you can set up a profile and you can message people that are in your genre, and everybody is looking for guests. So it's a dating site essentially for podcasters. Go on there, send 10 messages, see what the reply rate is. And I mean, you're kind of off to the races. So how
much is that?
I think it's like $29 a month.
Okay.
It might be cheaper. We pay for the highest tier, I think, because we go on so many shows. But yeah, 19 to $30 a month. And I think it's very, very, very worth it. You don't have to cold email people anymore. Like there are platforms built for this now.
What do you think about like the Facebook groups? Like, there's Need a Guest, there's, the Facebook groups of podcasters for podcasters.
I think it's worth testing out. But the hard part, and this is the other thing too, and I'll say this, do not try to promote your podcast in Facebook groups of other podcasters. That's not your audience. It's not going to work. It doesn't work that way. The need a guest, be a guest. I think you'd probably be better off just going on Podmatch, because everybody has their profile and they have their pitch and they have their picture. Like it's just set up for ease. Now, if $29 is unsustainable right now, crush the Facebook groups for sure.
Okay. I like it.
Yep.
So, wow. Okay. So I hope at least one of you guys who is listening is going to be inspired to go start a podcast or be on a podcast.
I hope so. Hopefully we said something today that landed. That's the goal.
Kevin, how can people stay in touch with you and find you and get that free strategy session?
You can email me. My email is kevin@nextleveluniverse.com. I have a podcast about podcasts called Podcast Growth University. I do an episode every week. I'm 190 something episodes in, and it's all about this type of stuff. The behind the scenes podcasting stuff, the what to do, the psychology part of it. So yeah, email me, listen to that. And then, yeah, anything I can do. I'm always an email away.
Amazing. We'll put that in the show notes. And to anyone listening, if you want to learn just more about how to make money online, we are having the replay available for a very limited time of the masterclass that we just ran, how to land your first or next paid brand partnership in the next 30 days. So to grab that, go to masterthemedia.co/replay. Thanks so much, Kevin.
Thank you for having me. Great call to action.
Thanks.